Hello to all my booty seekers and cheek chasers. This is the Carpe Natem Podcast. I'm your host, Nate De La Hoya-Reynoso, and I'm so grateful you are listening to this episode. If you're new here, you should know that I believe that my purpose is to uplift, inspire, and educate others to communicate masterfully so that they can better understand themselves and others. I've spent years in the personal development and transformational technology space, and I want to share with you the wisdom that was passed down to me from giants in the industry. So if you are on a journey of self-mastery, just like me, looking to make dreams a reality and willing to be a leader for your family and community, then join me in seizing the butt cheeks of life and giving them a big ol' squeeze. Let's jump into the show. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. I'm your host, Nate De La Hoya-Reynoso, and I have a very special guest with me here. We're recording a podcast together. You're probably going to be the first guest that I have on this podcast, and I'm very excited to have this man. His name is Liam. He's a dear friend of mine. He's visiting Austin, Texas from the Bay Area, and he is a very talented rapper. You can find him on Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok at Pomi Music. Type in Pomi. Change your life. His music is fantastic. Liam, appreciate you for being here. What's going on?
Let's go. Thank you for the intro. That made me feel like a king. So it was like being out in Austin. Like, I love it out here. We've eaten some good food, burgers, fried chicken, slept in, got some runs in, hit the gym. It's been a good couple of days.
I know. It feels like whenever I'm on vacation, I'm trying to pack in as many items that I can do in one single shot. So it's just nonstop, like activity after activity. And I really appreciate you for coming out because I literally invite everyone to come visit me in Austin. And you actually took me up on it and you were like, I'm coming out here. The listeners don't know this, but you were originally going to be playing a show out here, and then the show ended up getting canceled, but you still came out here, still networked. You hopped on another podcast. You met some other cool rappers in the local Austin scene. Tell me about, like, how, I guess, that went all about. Like, you got started with the show and then the canceling and, you know, what happened after you got into Texas.
Yeah, so me and my girlfriend, Nicole, got into Texas like Thursday afternoon, and we were actually just going to Uber to our hotel, and the guy who originally booked the show, apparently there was like some double booking problems, and so the show got canceled. But he was like, oh, like, we've never met before. We've literally only talked through Facebook Messenger after you connected us. And he's like, oh, I'll swoop you from the airport. And I'm like, sweet, I'm down with that. And so he comes and picks us up, and we talk to him for a little bit. He drops us off at our hotel, and then I end up going to their art gallery, Paradox Productions. It's not even a studio, but it's a whole art gallery full of like paintings, drawings. They shoot their podcast upstairs, and like they had so many other artists there, like producers who were killing it, rappers. Then they got another rap group called Crowd Control, and like I was able to just kind of collect numbers and emails and Instagrams and be like, let's work together. And like, I'm just excited to have a connection in a separate area, you know, because I have a few people in the Bay that I perform with, but as you know, the scene's kind of dead. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
it feels like it's dying a little bit.
Kind of, and with all the restrictions that are happening in California, I know it's really hard to like continuously put on shows. People are still hesitant to even go to live shows, and with like different variants coming up, people are just kind of scared to go out there. But if you come to Austin or you go to Florida or you go to the states where they're just super loose about COVID regulations, live music is popping. There's people out here that are trying to network. They're doing shows on the daily. I came to Austin because of how much lively nightlife was out here. They had comedy every night of the week. They had performances at every single bar. So I'm really glad that you got to kind of like leave that California bubble and kind of see that music is still jamming in places where people really do want to make it.
Even Voodoo Donuts has a stage for shows.
Exactly, dude. How cool would it be if you had like a hardcore show at a Voodoo Donuts and you could just be like, "What the fuck is up, Voodoo Donuts? Side to side, put a hole in someone." Like,
Hell yeah. No, that's exactly like the experience I've had because, and like maybe we can kind of go into this a little bit more, but it feels to me that there's so much of like, hey, I'm trying to get mine, like, this is my music, listen to me, like, I don't collab with other people type of mentality, especially in the rap scene in the Bay, because it's all like a bunch of trap rap. It's just trap rap and like gangster rap and like all that stuff, and there's no like community of underground artists. There's a little bit with hardcore, there's a little bit with like indie rock, like that's what like me and Getty were playing in our original band.
but even in the
And
hardcore
like
scene, it always felt to me like if you weren't part of like the popular kids or the clique or the crew, whoever you may have, if like one person has beef with you, all of a sudden like 15 people have beef with you because it's all group think and group mentality and you're cool, you're not, you're good, you're not.
yep.
And they're not really even like the true gatekeepers of like the music industry, but they set the precedent of like, oh, you can play here, you can't play here, don't show up here, don't let me catch you in my hood mentality. Instead of like, music is meant to bring people together. It's unity. It's
Right.
what I thought when I found like the hardcore scene was like, I feel like such a black sheep. I feel like such an outcast. I'm so weird in comparison to like all the other kids in my class. And then I found a group of misfits and weirdos that were like
Yeah.
me. And I thought like maybe we can come together. And instead it was just like division, drama. If you get something, that means that I'm going to have less. So like I can't let you have anything or any spots or any time. You can't play here.
And that's the whole mentality with music, like out there. And like, I mean, it seems different from an outside perspective here, but I'm sure there's some of that everywhere.
For sure. In the
But
comedy scene, in any
yeah.
scene, there's like that kind of like eat or be eaten kind of mentality.
But even like I saw like a rapper talking about his experience of like the East Coast versus the West Coast. And like he just simplified it to people releasing music on social media. And he was like, if you see an artist who's not one of the big artists on the West Coast come out with a song, nobody else is talking about it because everyone's like, oh, but I got my project coming out, or like, I'm not featured on that song, so I'm not really trying to support it. Like, you should listen to my stuff. Whereas like on the East Coast, he was saying he saw all these underground rappers dropping songs and they're on all the homies' feeds. People are like, hey, like, this is just an acquaintance that I have, but like, they put out a song, like, go listen to them, and there's so much more of a community. Whereas in the Bay, and especially in LA, because it's so overpacked with artists, everyone, oh, I need mine. No, like, don't listen to this guy because then I can't have mine. It's like what we talk about with the abundance mentality.
Yeah, what we were talking about earlier was this idea that if you truly believe that you live in a world or in a reality where abundance is infinite and there's just so much abundance to give around, like you don't need to go into every scenario with this idea of like I have to snake the person in front of me to get ahead.
Yeah.
We can all win. And right now it seems like not even just now, historically, the people that have succeeded the most are the people that were able to collaborate with the most amount of people, who were able to make the most amount of connections. And that's what people live for when crossovers happen. Run DMC and Aerosmith. You had people just
Yeah.
like, Metallica playing with Santana and just like all these just mixes of genres and musics, and like that's what you need to get ahead. You need to find like a solid collective that share your ideas and values so that you can all grind together and level up with each other. Not like, oh, I'm just doing this so I can get ahead, and then the minute I find an opportunity, I'm jumping ship. Fuck these guys. I'm doing my thing. Like,
Yep.
you have to live in this idea that you can have everything that you want and desire without taking from anybody else's plate. They can have the same amount, if not more, if they
Yeah.
choose to.
Dude, the person that popped into my head as you were talking, which is like the most immediate example of this, is Travis Barker. Like, so he ran his whole course with Blink, did a killer job, like led pop punk for all of us emo kids.
Iconic.
And like absolutely iconic. And then artists like, Peep, and then Ian Dior, and then Juice World, and then MGK hopping into the pop punk scene. Travis Barker was like, oh, this is something I can be a part of, and just morphed into that. And he's probably even making more money and more successful than he even was with his original project, with some sound engineering skill and just new collabs. And that only came because he wasn't close-minded about it. He wasn't like, oh, these are the new guys, fuck them, nah, I don't really like this. He was like, damn, this is like a new invented version of like pop punk and emo in a new type of way, and like, let me hop on and see what I can do here.
Another good example would be Snoop Dogg. That dude does
Yeah.
reggae. He started listening to some bands. They're called corridos, and they make music for the cartel. And they're just cartel. They're
Damn.
cartel bands, and that's a whole genre of music. He made a song with them. Like, he's so open to just like do what's the most fun, and that's something I admire about Snoop Dogg. And yeah, he has his accolades and his successes. I just think that when he speaks about it, he's just like, I never really did it for like the fame or the fortune. I just did it for the love of the game. It seems like Snoop Dogg is just trying to have as much fun as possible, and by
Right.
doing so, he is creating just a legacy across multiple genres and stayed relevant for several decades.
I think that's like the key to it. You know, I've heard people talk about Drake in the same way, because hip hop artists come and go so fast, so quick. And the reason Drake has held the top for so long is because he came out, he was hot, and then Tyga came out, and then he was making songs with Tyga, and then Rihanna was killing it. So what did he do? He made What's Your Name with Rihanna, and then Lil Wayne came out, and he like got on all this trap shit with Meek Mill and Lil Wayne and Rick Ross, and then like Migos and the Lil Baby, and like this like version of like Atlanta, like, or Florida, like mumble rap came out, and he was on it with them, and he continues to morph with every single genre.
He's a kingmaker, and he knows it. He talks about it all the time. Like, yo, you need a blow up? Just throw me on a feature. Like, if you can afford me. He knows what he's worth and what he brings to the table, dude. That man transcends what most people will achieve in a lifetime. You don't have to be a fan of him. I personally am a fan of his. I love the fact that like the meme culture came around surrounding him. Like, Drake is soft. Drake be the type to sit down and fart on the toilet. Like, these little silly like ideas. And he just like, instead of hating on it, or like, he just was like, yeah, that's me. And he leans into it. He's so open, because at the end of the day, he's making an empire. Drake has an empire that's going to last for, centuries if recorded history keeps going as you're going. Like, he's chart topping, but he's also collaborative. He had the Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne group that blew up, but it's, again, you work with people that can level you up.
Yep.
And they did never at any point were like, oh, we got to take from other people. They're like, let's work together, let's unite, let's expand. And they all became like chart toppers, legends in the game, titles that are just now, like records that are just now being broken. But like, I love Cardi B. I think that she's hilarious as a person. She couldn't be here if not for like the stuff that Nicki Minaj did.
Right. Nicki Minaj opened that door for female rappers.
But then for her, it would be like Missy Elliott. For Missy Elliott, it's Sade. It's always somebody prior that were using their knowledge, their wisdom, their creation to build upon and expand to even greater heights.
Well, it's like, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday about Pittsburgh and Wiz coming out of Pittsburgh. And so, like, there was no, like, real rappers that anyone had heard of coming out of Pittsburgh. And then Wiz came out of Pittsburgh with this, like, almost like frat boy, like smoking weed, chilling, like mentality. And then Mac took that and put his own spin on it and made it like super frat boy, like Nike's on my feet, kids, like all the beginning mixtapes. And he kind of led the door for Mac to get out of there. And then he became a crazy artist. I mean, his style of music went into everything. I mean, he started singing more, he did jazzy stuff, but there's always somebody that kind of opens that door, and then you can kind of squeeze your way in and just work around whatever's going on in the current industry.
I genuinely think this is like the greatest time in the world to be an artist or to be a performer, because before, to get your music out there, you got to be on corners selling mixtapes, pushing stuff. You had to be at like all the venues. You had to always be doing stuff. Now, from the comfort of your home, you could distribute to people around the world, you know.
Seriously.
When I had my band and it was active, we had streams from like China, Ukraine. We had people all over the world messaging us, and that's something that was like in our grandpa's age, you had to be the Beatles for that to happen. Now
real.
you can just like upload and put out whatever you want, whatever style you like, whatever. If you want to talk about goblins, there's so many people now connected because of the internet that you can find a whole group and a whole niche of people who love goblin music. And it's so niche, but it's out there, dude. I met a band that was Goblin Core or whatever. They're so good, and he's not even he is a band member, but he doesn't do anything except he's just a goblin, and he runs around on stage. He runs off. It's like it's Goblin Core. I'll show you later, man.
Fuck?
I think they're called Necro Goblin or something. I found them on Warped Tour. They're hilarious, and like again, there's people out there who are creating stuff thinking that like, oh, no one's gonna like this. Bullshit. There's so many people that are gonna like this. Go develop your voice and see who loves it.
Well, and that's some of the advice that you were giving me earlier that I was also telling you, like, has really been my plan for the next years. Like, I've been super, you know, as for any artist, like, our music means a lot to us. It's personal lyrics that we write, you know, and especially when we first start writing, it's usually like the deepest and the worst of it, you know, just the real gnarly stuff. And like, it's sometimes hard to step away from that because like I write a song and I'm like, oh, this is the one. Like I gotta market this. I gotta spend 2 months figuring out how to give the perfect release. And it's like, I think with how everything is today, it's so much more effective to just create and throw out. Like I'm going to tell you right now, I'm releasing probably like 3 to 4 different like releases that are going to be singles or double singles in the next 2 months that I'm scared to death of releasing because it's weird. It's out of my style. Some of them I just made for fun, but I'm at a point where it's just like, fuck it. Fuck it. If I made it and it was fun and it sounds great, cool, I'm just going to put it out. If people don't like it, the worst thing that could happen is that nobody listens.
And even then, like,
it's not that big of a deal.
It's really not. Like,
it's not that big.
And like, if no one listens, are your bills not going to be paid? Are you going to like lose your health? Are you going to lose the love of your life? No. People wrap their minds around this idea that like if it's not the most perfect thing that they've ever put out, it's not going to be loved and adored. And I'm here to dispel that notion. It's total bullshit. At the end of the day, you want to put in your best effort into it. But at this time in this day and age, it's about getting like as much as you can out, constantly create, because as you create, you just get better, you know?
Right.
And you like somebody like Russ, when he was coming up, he wrote a song a day. And I don't know how long it took before he was getting signed, but imagine him just going through it, one song a day for an entire year. By the time he got to song 366, record labels were waiting and offering him money for his music. You know, some people, maybe it's song number 3 for you. Maybe it's whatever album number 4. Maybe it's song 137. But how many people stop at song 2 or at song 4? I personally hate listening to old stuff that I do because it makes me cringe. Like even editing, oh my God, editing and listening to my voice or watching old music videos that I'm in. I can see how awkward I am on stage, but it's me looking at it with the lens of like the experience that I have now. At the time, that was my best. That was my absolute pinnacle of like, this is me. This is as best as I can be. And now that I'm better at it, I have to look at it and be like, that was me at that time without feeling cringy or feel like, you ever read your old notes or your old raps and just be like, oh.
Dude, I have like a whole notebook of like me, like 11 years old, writing like angry drunk raps about my dad. And it's terrible. Like, probably not even my closest friends, if they asked to see it, I wouldn't even show them.
Dude.
Maybe if somebody, like, begged me, but, like, I'm just like, oh, fuck. And at the time, I was like, dog, I'm Slim Shady. Like, Bro. This is it, you know? And, like, it was for me at that time. And the beauty of it is that it got better. And the shit that I wrote, let's say, a year and a half ago, that little kid would look at that song and be like, damn, you're a god. And I look at that shit from a year and a half ago and I'm like, you're shit. Like, this sucks.
2 things, man. I feel like, one, now that you've told the world that you have some notebook that makes you cringe, now it's your duty to take those lyrics and like rewrite them and like finish those songs. Like, I genuinely feel that
That would
all
be
the
mad dope.
it'd be really crazy. It'd be a good concept. You could be like, these are the lyrics that I felt when I was 11. So now to appeal to that kid, let's write a song. Let's finish that cycle. You know, and that's a healing exercise. That's also really cool if you're able to pull that off, and it ends up becoming a banger.
Dude, it's honestly a great idea. I've never thought about that before, but a big component of like what I preach in a lot of my music now is that like I'm the person that 12-year-old kid would have wanted to be.
Yes.
Like today I'm that person, and I think it just might be the cherry on top of the milkshake for me to take, one or two of those old raps and like combine it and convert it and rewrite it a little bit and like just make it just like a disgusting song.
Absolutely, dude. Put it out there. And like, I resonate with what you just said so much, because I genuinely feel like all my behaviors, all of my accomplishments, all my dreams were me trying to appeal to 8th grade Nate, or like high school
Fuck yeah.
year Nate. Like the things that I wanted so bad in a time where, like, in high school I was into self-harming. I would like hurt, I'd cut words into my forearms like failure and fuck up, and like I had all this anger and angst. If I would have known that, like, instead of cutting myself I could just do push-ups, dude, I'd be shredded right now.
For real.
But like, instead I didn't have anywhere to channel my energy, and I felt like music was this thing that really helped me get that stuff out. So I wanted to be this like metal screamer. I wanted to be the lead singer from Bullet for My Valentine, and I thought like that was my ticket out. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to accomplish. And I knew that I wanted to be that stage person. So when I was actually a screamer and a metal band frontman, and we toured, and like, some of the accomplishments almost felt like, whatever, it's just another day in the books. But to my 8th grade self, to my sophomore year self, man, like,
You were a god.
holy crap. If I would have been way less depressed if I would have known that, like, I would have been so cool in the future,
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy. And, this is probably the first time I've mentioned on this podcast that, like, I've self-harmed. And for those who don't know, I struggled with it when I was between like 15 and almost up to being like 17. And like, it was just weird. I felt like because my friends did it, I did it too, because they also felt the same way that I did. I don't know what really drove me to do that, but like, I always felt like I had weird uncontrolled feelings and emotions that I didn't know what to do with. So instead of doing something creative, I did something incredibly destructive. And you come from like a past that is quite destructive, and you have your own adventures that you can share as much as you want with her. But you and I are both in a state of recovery from behaviors of self-harm, from drug abuse, from addictions. And if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of your story, it'd be great.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. And I think, like, to touch on it, like, recovery is not just from one addiction. Because if you struggle with any of it, you struggle with all of it. Mm-hmm. If you self-harm and I put a line of cocaine in front of you, you're going to love it. Mm-hmm. If you have a cocaine problem and you start like developing some body dysmorphia and mess with your eating and get into crazy about that, you're going to develop an eating disorder. That's just how it works. It's all the same. It's all a soul sickness, and it's all something that like we really, really struggle with if you struggle with any of it. And the thing is like, for me, like, the thing that tore me apart and the thing that took me down, cool. The thing that took me down was drugs. Drugs brought me to a state where my morality was compromised, where I was willing to do stuff and doing stuff just to get high because I didn't want to feel the way I felt when I was sober. Being sober, dealing with trauma, and being in my own head was more painful to me than going out, screwing over other people so that like I could get a needle full of drugs in my arm. And that was the bottom line.
It's all a coping mechanism. Like, we are so traumatized by so many things. And this is the funny part about like just the human experience, is that it doesn't matter if you had a good life, you had every opportunity to have, you were born, the correct race or whatever the hell you think that like is stopping you from being the thing. Everyone has their own demons. You could have had the best parents in the world and still ended up a fuck up. You could have the worst parents in the world and end up an all-star, a champion, a 1%er, a 0.01%er. We've seen it time and time again that we all have our own demons to face, and what we do to battle them and what we do to, some people say embrace your demons. Some people say like run away from them or hide them, suppress them, put them down. And drug abuse, I feel like, is just us coping with what our reality, our perceived reality is. Especially like for me, I loved cocaine because it just gave me this feeling that I accomplished something. It made me feel like the same feeling you get after crushing a goal of yours or, beating a game that you were trying so hard to beat or running 5 or 10 miles, that feeling of accomplishment that you did something, you put in effort and your brain is like, good job, here's your reward. Cocaine would give you that, and you could have that at any point in the day. And then that starts taking for breakfast, for dinner, for snacks, and then it just became this thing where normal things didn't excite you. You couldn't just spend time with somebody that you loved. You just had to have something that topped the previous thing, and it becomes an endless cycle of chasing a dragon that you'll never catch.
And I think this is a really interesting point, and something that is really cool that we're about to get into. But I think the human experience, the main component of the human experience is a hole in our soul that we try to fill with anything but spirituality. Mm-hmm. I think we're spiritual beings. I think that everyone needs some form of spirituality, but we're not taught that. And I think that hole can be attempted to be filled with money, with cars, with women or boys, whoever you are, whatever you're into.
Above 18.
Yeah,
always.
above 18.
Above 18 within legal parameters constantly.
Or it can be filled with, it can be tried to be filled with drugs, with alcohol, with anything. And I think the thing that keeps us chasing when we're obsessed with those is that it can't be filled with anything besides an inner peace and a sense of spirituality. And that's why you never have enough cocaine. That's why you never have enough money. That's why you never have enough of whatever you're chasing. Ooh, I'll take a marshmallow.
My wife just walked in and handed us some marshmallows in the middle of such an intense part of our conversation. Just like spirituality and filling the void. Ooh, marshmallows.
But yeah, no, I think that's really the bottom line, and why those things don't fulfill you.
Yeah.
Is because it's inner peace and a sense of spirituality that fills that hole. And we're just blinded by our society. Oh, it's the next car, it's the next phone, it's the next paycheck, whatever it is,
And that is your truth, and what you believe. See, the idea of like it's true if it's only true if it's true for you, because some people see like religion as like this organized thing, or spirituality as like a patriarchy or a hierarchy where people misinterpret stuff, blah 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 blah. Not here to argue for or against that, but there is, I believe, and you may not, but I believe that we also exist in a spiritual realm, and we're somewhat connected to, like, we're in the physical reality currently, but what is the physical reality besides just a projection of whatever our brain interprets as what we're experiencing? I will never know what you're experiencing currently, and you're sitting across from me, because your perception, right, your history, every knowledge and every step you've taken up until this point gives you the reality that you have currently. And some people don't want to believe that if you take accountability for your actions and everything that's happened to you, you can have true freedom. But somebody doesn't want to accept that. They want to say that it was my parents that ruined me. It was my drug addiction that ruined me. It was my ex-girlfriend that cheated on me. Whatever it may, whatever excuse that helps you sleep at night. But the truth of it is, it was you that made all the choices up until that point. You've always made the choices.
And even if you were presented with a situation where it put you in a situation that you didn't make a choice to get there, it's still your responsibility to deal with the after effects. Mm-hmm. So if you were born into poverty, like, my heart goes out to you, to anyone who's been born in poverty. And obviously as a 5-year-old kid, you can't really do shit. like you're in a messed up situation. You got a bad hand of cards, but by the time you hit 18, by the time you hit 20, by the time you hit 25,
Man, people start grinding at 12 sometimes
yeah.
to get out of it. How bad do you want to change?
Yeah, you make a decision to accept responsibility for your situation, and then you put your first foot forward and you start making a change. And it's going to happen. It may take long, it may take longer, and it may take really long, but it's going to happen.
And there are some people that I hold very near and dear to my heart that have told me their struggle, their upbringing, their experiences as a child, and it's heartbreaking. But they have transmuted all of that and turned themselves into whatever they are now, and they're thriving. They're doing so amazing. And
Right.
physical wise and financially and career wise, things that like they should have been statistics, they should have been gang members, they should have been killed, and still they should have been on crack and never did anything, never followed in the footsteps of their parents or the people that took care of them, didn't use their abuse to then destroy the world. So when somebody says like, oh, I can't because this reason, the part of me wants to be loving and be like, no. But the other part of me is just like, listen here, you little bitch. Like, there are people who've gone through some way worse stuff than you and have done amazing things. And if they can do it with their circumstances, then you at this point with your privilege should be able to go and break past that. And like you said, some people are in environments that they can't get out of. Maybe you're in a wheelchair and you can't do stuff financially, or you can't support yourself financially, or maybe whatever's wrong with you. There are still people in your exact situation that have gotten through it, gotten over it, and thrived, instead of regressing in destruction and self-imploding.
It's all about perception.
100%.
It's all about perception.
I agree.
Like, what is your perception? And like, is your perception like pushing you into a direction to where you're like, oh, I can do it? That's what scares me the most about a lot of what we see in society right now is we're a I can't, you can't, we can't society. And that scares the shit out of me, because the most important thing that we can do is you can. No matter what your situation is, you can. No matter what thing you want to do, you can. Just put the work in. Just be disciplined. Just be diligent and be confident in what you're doing. You can.
Easier said than done, buddy.
Yeah, a lot easier said than done.
A lot
for sure.
easier said than done, but you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, whether you look at your surroundings and you think that like everything that you have, you're blessed to have, or you're looking at everything and saying like, man, this is the worst situation I've ever been in. You know, not only is it taking responsibility, but it's your own perception. You know,
Right.
There's the analogy of like the two twins who are like survive. Sorry, there's two twin brothers and they have an alcoholic dad who's super abusive. One never drinks and has an amazing family and an amazing kid and is super good to the kid. And when you ask them why, they said, well, look at my father. How could I not be? And the other twin goes to the bottle, gets drunk, repeats the cycle, and continues it forward, perpetuating the same toxic behaviors. And when you ask him why, he said, well, look at my father. How could I not be?
Right. And that's such a perfect example of it. You know, and I think I do talk like a little bit insensitive sometimes.
Me too.
Around the subject of you know, like pushing people to be better, but it's not from a point of disrespect. It comes from like a point of me seeing that change happen in myself and then seeing other people knowing that they're able to do better. Like literally, I was just, you know, texting back and forth with one of my friends today who's like, you know, just not doing very well for himself. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, do better. You know, like, I'm not trying to come at you disrespectful, but like, come on. Like, we both know who you are. Like, I don't need to pillow talk you. Just do better, because I love you love you, and you can do better than this, you know?
Yeah, especially it's when it's so hard to see like your own potential because you're seeing it through the lens of you, while someone else can like I am easier to fail myself than I am someone else. And that's why I love accountability. That's why I love having and surrounding myself with people who want to see see me do better instead of being negative. Like, honestly, environment trumps anything. If you are in a terrible, toxic, terrible environment, there's nothing that you can do, no matter how strong-minded you are. You will eventually regress and be susceptible to the toxins of your environment. So getting out of it, changing your surroundings, changing your environment, 100% 100% affects your overall outcomes. And some people have trouble doing that, but it's never impossible to change your surroundings, to move out of where you are. And doing so will even bring people, oh, you too good to live in this hood anymore? You too good to live? Oh, you want to be white now? You don't want to be this now? Like, they always hate on you for wanting to better yourself instead of being like, yeah, good job. Get out of this neighborhood. Do something better. If you want to be better and achieve more, go for it. We support you. We love you.
One, it's the reason like people like that in any area have, like, we see it in music all the time. Like, music's the most relevant topic for probably both of us. But, like, somebody, some local artist gets a deal, or some local artist, like, gets super
Should have been
big.
me, bro.
Yeah, and it should have been me, or like, why do they have it? And it comes back to the lack of the abundance mentality. Like, somebody gets out of a bad situation and they're like, oh, well, why is he doing that? Like, now I can't get mine, or like, like somebody gets out of, a bad space and there's other people like, oh, well, you shouldn't be like that because this is how we are. And because people who are going to be lower down like that in any community or anything going on, most of the time suffer, and I have too. I'm not talking down, like I've never experienced this, but suffer from a victim mentality. When I lived in a victim mentality, when I was like, oh, poor me, like they don't understand me, I hated seeing winners. I hated seeing people succeed because I'm like, well, you don't understand how hard my life is. I have it so bad, and like you're just rubbing it in my face by succeeding. Yeah. And if you were me, you would never be able to do that. So it's so much in like ego and self-centeredness and like it's just all that gross emotion.
It's such a weird time that we live in because I feel like the victim mentality is almost incentivized. In a way,
it is.
Where if you've been wronged by society or by your parents or by another ethnic group or by the police or whatever, you are entitled to compensation. And it's just like, not really, man. Like, who's had it like not rough? Even people in like positions of privilege, like extreme wealth, they go through some situations in their own way, it's different than our problems are way different than their problems, but we all go through our own struggles. We all go through our own things. Like, but to feel like, oh, I can't get where I want to be because I'm this way. I was born this way. I was born this height. I was born this color. I was born this race, and I'm wronged by society. Who gives a fuck? Everyone's wronged by society.
People still kill themselves in Beverly Hills.
All day. Dave Chappelle talks about that. We were talking about that earlier where Anthony Bourdain had the most amazing job. He got to travel the world and eat delicious food with extraordinary people. And that man killed himself. And that's such a strong point because you could have what others believe is the perfect life, the perfect human experience. And in his mind, for whatever reason, he believed he didn't, to the point where he ended it.
Or he lived with the belief that life was going to finally make him happy for so long. And then upon getting there, he realized it wasn't the solution. And that's why you see that's why the highest suicide rate is white adult males. Because people and it even happens more with rich people. How many more rich people do we need to watch kill themselves? Is that people believe, okay, here's what I need. Life might be hard right now, but I need the wife, I need the kids, I need the house, the white picket fence, and the golden retriever, and the car, and a nice Mercedes. And you work 10, 20, 30 years, and you get there, and you're not happy. I'm sticking a gun in my mouth too. That's fucked up. That's
It's
messed up.
It really is, and I feel like a lot of people are on autopilot behaviors, and we're programmed to believe that we're meant to be this thing. We're just a cog in the wheel, and you want to be the homeowner, the car owner, lease this new car, be the person with the newest Tesla, have the biggest parking lot in the neighborhood, whatever. Like whatever these like false feelings of validation that you seek from external sources may be, it doesn't change that you never cleaned up the stuff inside. Like I had a psychedelic experience where during the trip I had realized that I compulsively clean. I feel like I have to clean in order to even start focusing on work. Everything has to be clean. I have to clean up all the messes around me. I'm just compulsively cleaning. And I realized that I clean the outside world so much because I don't want to clean the inside world. I don't want to clean any of the stuff inside.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with the realization that the mistakes and the actions, the consequences of my actions were my fault to begin with. And you have to realize, like, even, yeah, maybe you were put into a bad situation. Maybe you were given a bad set of cards. But what you decided to do next was your choice.
Right.
And who wants to face that reality when you can just, like, drink 3 margaritas and be on a beach and then, like...
And like the other thing about like the victim like mentality is that it's not easy to not be in that. Like it's so nice. Like I talk about like the self-pity warm blanket. Like self-pity is like a heating blanket.
Woe is me.
Yeah, anything happens in the world, you put that on, you get warm, you get cozy, you say, "Wow, look at how the world has wronged me. Look at all this terrible stuff that they've done to me." And you get to sit there entitled and you feel good and you feel like, "Oh man, like this is, this is messed up." And then on top of that, you can even be like, "Oh, well, now I'm going to succeed through that." And then build like false success on top of the self-pity to just further the victim mentality.
And then becomes an echo chamber because you start believing and looking for reasons to justify why you're right. And every time you see it, it's just like, boom, see, I told y'all, it's because I'm this, it's because I'm that, it's because this doesn't want to do it. Like even if you're talented, even if you got all the connections, even if you have like all the resources that I could benefit from, if you're thinking like that, I don't want to fuck with you.
Seriously.
I don't want to have dinner.
Miserable.
You're miserable, bro. Like I don't want to have any and I don't want to I feel like stuff like that and that type of thinking is like mold. And if you are around mold for a minute or two, probably won't get any on you. But if you're hanging out with mold, you're going to grow moldy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're going to grow bad and you're going to become toxic yourself. You're going to adapt that way of thinking. That's why the environment change is always so important. Surround yourself with people. If your friends aren't doing shit, all 5 of them are, then I'm guessing that you aren't either. And if you feel like you are doing stuff and you are putting stuff out there, surround yourself with people. Be around people that make you feel insecure, not because they put you down, but because they're doing things that are so amazing, you feel like you should be doing more.
That's exactly like what I'm on the journey to find. And like that's something I've really enjoyed, like just hanging out with you like the last couple of days, is I'm like, don't let it go to your head, but I'm like, dude, like Nate is somebody who's been in the industry. Like he's played Warped. Like, you may not be like directly associated with music anymore, but you're somebody with a lot of experience who's killing it in other games now, just as hard, if not even better. And like that inspires me. And there's so much knowledge to be gained and so much like, what can I learn here? Like, what kind of emotions can this invoke in me? Like, how is this going to affect me when I go back home? And like, I have one other close friend that I see on a daily basis, which is my friend Nick. But everyone else, I don't really see that much because they are just not people that make me feel insecure with their goals. I like people where I'm like, oh my God, he's doing that? I need to not sleep tonight, like I need to get on mine.
Strive to be the dumbest person in the room because you have the most to gain.
Yep.
And, regardless of whatever successes or failures I've had in whatever industry, it never stops me or prevents me from like cheering other people on. I want everyone to succeed. I don't care. I did I did those things because I wanted to. It wasn't really, of course, I wanted to live off of it financially and do what I had to. But regardless, those were my goals. I crushed them. I did it. I ran its course to as far as I could take it by myself with teams, whatever. I made my mistakes. And, it even led to other things, good and bad. Like, it's such a plethora of just experiences. And it has helped me and shaped me into what I am today. But it also left me with traumatizing scars and terrible behaviors. And I was surrounding myself with people who were enabling terrible, terrible actions, because the same people that like high five you when you're doing shit are the same people that are holding up pitchforks and like torches when it's time to like mob you and it's time to call you out. And they'll turn on you so fast. Years of friendships, these text messages of like, homies, I love you, I can't wait to see you, can't wait till we hang out, gone when shit hits the fan. And you realize who has your back. And it's very, very few people.
Right. Right. And that's kind of why like my friend choice right now is even like fairly small. I mean, like I'm super like kind and courteous to everyone that I meet, like I have no reason to walk into a situation with disrespect ever. Like it's just it never has served me.
Four quarters are way better than 100 pennies, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. But as far as the people that I'm like really associated with, like people who I call and talk to on the phone, people that I spend serious time with, it's always people that I know have my back, like that I know make me feel good, that I know add, 80, 90, 100% positivity into my life, because I just don't really have any business like associating with anyone else.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier too. It's just like, it's what you put out is what you get back. It's constant karma. It's like, and not in the sense of like good deeds, bad deeds, but are your thoughts positive? Like my outward expressions and the things that I put out into social media, when I talk to people, I'm always so loving, encouraging, supportive, caring, because in my mind, it's just dark and angry and spiteful. But instead of, so like I'm constantly, if you're a really close friend, or if you're my wife, that like when it's just me and I'm comfortable around you, I'm just evil thoughts just come out constantly. But I don't let them.
Too.
But I don't let them manifest. I always reverse it. So as the more negative my head space gets, the more positive I put out into the world as like a counterbalance. Because there are days where I just feel like death and everything sucks. But the things that I'm putting out there in the world is life is beautiful. I am abundant. I am great, because I'm counterbalancing the negative. So on days where I'm super positive, just know that I've been cussing out people in every language, just nonstop for whatever reason.
It's kind of like what we also talked about with gratitude earlier today. Like everyone can feel gratitude, and I don't think you need any kind of suffering to get extreme gratitude, although I think it helps. And the most grateful people are going to be the people who have suffered the most. Usually, usually the people that are the most grateful, the people who are the most positive, the people who are the most like respectful up front and nice,
have gone through the darkest stuff, man.
Right. And they only do that because they have to compensate. It's also like I experience the same thing with discipline. Like when I'm not on vacation, like I'm like, okay, it's this hour, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, now I'm heading to work, and like I need to hit this, but I'm only that disciplined because if I'm not that disciplined, I'm just all over the place. I'm just like, oh, dog, squirrel, fridge, candy, girlfriend, I'm just a nutcase.
Yeah, you have a sense of self-governance, and that's what like most of the, if not all of the highest performing people have. They have disabilities, they have things that prevent them from being great, but they set these standards and these principles that they self-govern by, and they stick to them, and their ethics determines whether or not they follow through with what they set for themselves. They hold themselves to a standard, and that's really amazing that you keep yourself disciplined, and I do my best to make sure that I do stuff, but I mess up all the time. But it's
Or
not.
you run and work out every day. Shut
Yeah,
up. What mile are you on right now?
I'm on like mile 69,
For like
baby.
2.5 weeks?
So yeah, for the listeners don't know this, but I was challenged to do this thing called a character mile, where you run 1 mile a day, every day for a month because it's inconvenient and because it's hard, and you do it so that way run a mile, do something hard, build a habit, change your life, whatever. It's one of those like Tony Robbins inspired challenges for the month on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I agreed to do it. I was like, I'll do it. I did my mile day 1. And then I was going to do my mile day 2. But before I did my mile, I was on Instagram like, man, I really don't want to run. I hate running. This is so terrible. And then someone called me a pussy. So then I was like, fuck you. And they were like, you can't run. And we were just going back and forth. And this person had run like 67 miles the previous month. So I was like, 67 miles ain't shit. And they were like, oh, I've been running for years. You can't just start running like crazy. You'll injure yourself. And I'm like, oh, you must not know that I'm full of anger and spite constantly. I'm gonna outrun you. Right, for real. And now I'm like, day 17 of December, day 18. I don't know what day we are on, but I've run a mile every single day. And most days I've run like 4, 5, sometimes 6. My feet are killing me, but I'm just pushing myself to go above and beyond. And
Smoked her halfway through the month.
yeah, like took me less days to hit 67 than she did. And like it's fun, it's playful, it's for jokes. But like I said, it's like I'm so much more likely to fail myself. But if it becomes a competition, if it becomes something where like someone's holding me to a standard and is checking my performance, like if I don't run, but I hold myself to a standard too. Every day I'm posting on Instagram a screenshot of the miles that I did on my app. Like, look, I put in the 2 miles, I put in the 3 miles. I'll run 3 or 4 times I'll run twice a day, 2-3 miles at a time. And I'll be like, I did 6 today, like double days. And just by doing that and showing that, it's very ego driven, but look at the results I'm having. I'm feeling great in my body. My cardio's up. I feel I crushed 67 miles in 2 weeks, and I'm on track to probably hitting 100, but it starts off by doing something incredibly hard. And then it also like the commitment, the stability, like there were days where I didn't run my mile and I went and ran it at 11:30 at night before midnight. 'Cause I got it the fuck in. You stay hard. Right. Thank you, David Goggins, for being my audible of choice on those runs, because I'm feeling tired. And he's like, you think you're tired? And I'm just like, no, David, I can keep going.
Yeah, no, and you're inspiring other people.
I am.
Like I ran with you like today and yesterday, and like I used to run a lot and I haven't ran at all in a while, and like, dude, I feel great. Like I want to run when I get back to Cali for sure. And the other thing that I was thinking about while you were saying that is that, like you were saying that, because of this like playful competition, it holds you to some accountability. No worries. Yeah, it holds you to some accountability. And like something that I've noticed, like with like the most current example is in music for me, but it's this idea that I like the first show that we threw an album release show, and it was for my album Comeback Kid. And at that show, I was performing this song, and I look out into the crowd and I see this girl, and this girl is singing the lyrics to the chorus of the song. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is so real. And then I look over at the rest of the crowd, and there's a friend, there's a friend, there's a friend of a friend, and they're all singing the lyrics to this song. And it was at that time that I realized it wasn't just my dream, it was all of ours. And I could inspire these other people, and I could create positivity for these other people, and I could really bring something into their life that they didn't have before me. And that's the same thing with running. it's a little bit of a different example because you have like a playful competition and like I'm talking about these people becoming a part of it. But it's the same idea that like when you do good for yourself, you do good for everyone around you because you become an inspiration, whether you know it or not. You're just doing your miles. You're like, fuck, oh, this sucks. I'm getting it in. But you affect everyone else around you. How's the person feel who's never worked out, who's been looking at the mirror, feeling upset, seeing you post every day? You don't even know who they are. They're just looking.
And it's not like I do it for the feedback or the outside validation. I'm genuinely doing it, one, to like crush somebody that called me a pussy, but at the same time, I wanted to make a change in my life. I'm turning 28 next month, and I've made the decision that, for my 28th year of life, I just want to be the healthiest I've ever been. It's not the strongest, not the skinniest. I just want to be the healthiest. And that means being healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, all in the 4 quadrinity. So as long as I'm doing that, like that's what I'm really doing, is I'm doing this all for me. But God, does it feel good when someone DMs me and is like, yo, like you're inspiring me to work out. And then I'll see them post at the gym. I've seen an increase of people at the gym working out and posting their workouts, and those are the same people in my DMs who are like, amazing job, like good job running, or like, wow, that's amazing and good stuff. They're out there grinding too, and it's
just bonus.
Yeah, it's bonus. And then when they're posting, I'm fiery reacting to their posts, like, hell yeah, go running, hell, you were at the gym today, good up, you're back at it, good stuff. Like, you want to see people. It feels so good when people give you that outside validation, but at the end, you're not working for it. It's just a nice byproduct.
Yeah, that's the, I mean, it's kind of like I've been in like relationships where like my self-esteem wasn't that well. Like my self-esteem was very low, and I was like acting in a lot of codependency, and I had so much focus on, oh, well, how can I just make you all right? How do I get you all right? What do you need? What can I provide to you? The crazy part is the biggest thing that I can provide to my partner is by being the best version of myself. So it might take an hour away from me and my partner's time to be able to go run and hit the gym. But that just means when I'm back, I'm going to be in a positive mentality. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be feeling good and healthy. And I'm going to bring so much more to the table than I would be able to bring if I wasn't doing everything in my power to first take care of myself.
Like, I genuinely have this philosophy or this idea that like life is suffering. And what I mean by that is that everything hurts constantly. Since the day we come out the wound, everything is cold and shocking and awful. However, you as a person with free will get to choose your suffering. And at the highest level, you get to suffer and have problems like, man, I don't know whether I want a vacation in Hawaii or in the Swiss Alps this summer. Those are problems because you can't do both. Like currently, the problems we have are just like, some people's problems are like, am I going to put gas in my car? Am I going to eat today? People in those situations, I have so much heart for them. But at a point where you have accountability, where you have abundance, where you're able to grind and put into it, you get to choose what you suffer for. Like, I'm suffering, quote unquote, while I'm running because it's hard, it hurts, my stomach cramps, whatever. But look at the results of it. Look at what I'm reaping for the time and energy. If you want to suffer by, working 2 jobs, make sure that the thing that you're getting back from it is worth the suffering. Choose your suffering. That if you have to suffer, choose what kind of suffering you have to do, right?
Exactly. And I think, have you ever read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck?
Yeah, it's a great book.
Dude, that's exactly what they talk about. I just got done with the audiobook, and I felt like enlightened after that.
Yeah, dude, shout out to Audible. Please sponsor me.
Yeah, shout out Audible. But he talks about that. Mark Manson talks about the idea of like, what are you willing to suffer for? That you're going to suffer no matter what. If you have $1 million, you're going to suffer where to buy your next house. You're going to suffer if you should buy a Mercedes or a Lamborghini. Like, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be pain and there's always going to be suffering. But what makes the suffering worth it for you? for you right now with running, the pain of your feet hurting and your legs hurting and your stomach cramping after we smack 2 huge burgers and go on a run.
So crazy.
That
Highly do not recommend.
don't do that.
Do not go to Casino El Caminos in Austin, eat the most delicious burger you've ever had, then go for a 3-mile run in 40-degree weather. It's not a fun time.
Yeah, my stomach was not feeling great. But yeah, I mean, like that suffering was worth it. How I felt when we like sat down here, I had a nice cold cup of water and I was like just relaxed and felt good. Like that was worth it,
I also have, and this is something that's coming up for me, is like I have a fear of disappointing others, like disappointing myself. Again, it goes back to like I'm more likely to fail myself than I am someone else. And the feeling of disappointing somebody hurts. And regardless if it's a friend on the internet or if it's my mom, I still hold myself to like I can't disappoint it. So with the character mile, that friend, I'm doing a mile a day, like at least 1 mile. And there's days where it just sucks, but you get it done at 11:30 at night so you can be like, yo, I did it. Like I still held myself to that standard, whether, no excuses, like no excuses. Make all the excuses that you want. My grandfather's favorite phrase when he was alive was cuando inventaron las excusas, se acabaron los pendejos, which means when they invented excuses, all the stupid people stop existing. Because once you have an excuse, what's stopping you from just stopping? But I don't want to break anyone down. I don't want to disappoint anyone. So I push myself for the sake of others more than for myself. But at the same time, it is for myself. It's like my brain is tricking myself from doing like a third party thing where like I believe that I'm doing this in the spirit of competition, in the spirit of like not letting someone else down. But really, this is for my health. I decide what to do. I decide to pick my suffering, and then I decide to create the reality around that.
Whatever your motivator is, who cares?
Well, if your motivator is some like white lines on a plate, if your motivator is like some toxic people, like it's real easy to get caught up in the pleasures of life. And it's not saying that you shouldn't have pleasures. Like I totally think that all drugs should be legal and everyone should be able to do whatever the F they want, to the extent that they are not harming others by doing it. Because there are times where you harm others with your behaviors, but at the end of the day, if you pay all your bills and you are an excellent father and you never miss a deadline and your credit scores in the 800s and you got your bills paid, everything's going good for you. If you smoke crack, I don't give a shit. But are you likely to have a crack addiction and have all that? No. But does it happen? Absolutely. There are people out there with sustainable addictions, and maybe they shouldn't. Should or shouldn't, shooting on yourself is just is whatever. But if you handle your business, I don't care what you do, smoke, drink, do cocaine, I don't care. But for me, it just led to like my highest highs created lower lows. It created self-esteem issues. It created these feelings of anxiety, this body dysmorphia, like all these things that came with it, a sex addiction, like all these things where I was just so afraid of dealing with the things inside me that I decided to just do crazier and horrible things to, I guess, avoid all those inside feelings. Like, thank God for therapy. I was so resistant towards it.
Yeah, same.
And then I got into therapy and I was like, this is great.
The shit. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, I don't think there's any one way to live. All I know is what works for me.
Right, and it goes back to
all I know.
It's only true if it's true for you.
Yeah, all that I know. Like, something that I see in recovery a lot, and especially, like the type of recovery that I do is people are like, you know what, you're either abstinent from all drugs or you're not sober. That's a very and I don't believe that. Don't worry.
Yeah,
but
buddy.
like I like there's a lot of people like that, and it's like I am not in a position to say that. I know for myself, because I've done it plenty of times, where I've been abstinent off everything for 60 days, smoked a little bit of weed, and then I'm in like the TL in somebody's tent, and that's just like that's how that shit works for me.
Yeah, and everyone's built different.
Right, and I don't know how it works for other people. And for me to go around self-proclaiming, oh, well, this is how this works for me, so you have to do it my way. Obviously, if I think one way works better than the other, I'm probably going to suggest it to you, but it doesn't mean I know you. It doesn't mean that.
And like I heard this term used by Demi Lovato, but I'm California sober.
Yeah, that's
where
what they call it.
Like I'm over 900 as of recording this, like over 970 days clean off of cocaine.
Let's go.
It's been almost 3 years. Thank you, since doing it, and I met my wife around the time that I quit doing it. Like I had met her we had our first date 9 days before the last time I ever did it, and she really was a very vital and important piece to my recovery from addiction, because she held me to a standard. She was like, I don't like that stuff. I don't want you doing it. But she was also very against like smoking weed and drinking and well, not drinking. She drank. But as time went on, like I personally love marijuana. I'm not saying for legal purposes that I use it. I'm just saying that when I have used it in the past, I notice that my thoughts are just so fast and I'm so angry, and it really calms me down and it makes me reanalyze what's going on, and I can look at it from a more calmed down, less hyped up perspective. I don't believe that I could have gone cold turkey and still would have maintained the same level of like enthusiasm for life, because once you're addicted to something and you feel true addiction. There's something like casual usage and there's true addiction, where like you don't feel right unless you know that little baggie is sitting in your pocket.
Yep.
Right? You didn't even do any that day. Just know that you have it in your pocket. That just calms you down. And then as time went on, like I stopped drinking. It's been like about 2 years. No, how's it been? Actually, 4th of July, 2020 was the last time I got drunk. And since then, I've had maybe a cider or like a kombucha, or maybe I had 2 shots of an aged rum as a celebration for my friend's housewarming party.
Right.
But like actual intoxication, I haven't done that since July 4th, 2020. I just feel like as the older I got, the cleaner I got, and like, occasionally still use cannabis, and I love cannabis because it really does help me. But like alcohol doesn't do anything for me. Usually if I start drinking, then it starts going into other things like, where's the snow cane? Where's the nose stuff? And it's just like, it's so easy to slip back into that. And I also love psychedelics. They have made me feel profoundly better about myself. They've bonded my wife and I. We've gotten closer. We've really cleaned up. I've a lot of self-discovery for myself. But I have to understand that my chemical makeup, my body, my mindset, my everything is how I run. Somebody's not going to have the same exact experience. Not so everyone's going to be able to use cannabis or use drinking or use anything. Like if for you, nothing and complete abstinence works for you, then more power to you. But that's what works for you. And what works for me is going to be different, and works for your girlfriend or my wife. It's always going to be something different.
Yeah, and you only get that by having an open mind. Like, that's the key thing to honestly everything that we've talked about. And the thing that creates an open mind for me is humility. Humility is like the golden thing that is so hard for me to maintain, but it is the golden thing. And it's not in the same way that a lot of us think about it and how I used to think about it, like humiliation, like making fun of you. Humility for me is about being right-sized. So it's not about, this is wonderful. It's not about thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. And so humility is just, I'm another person. I'm not any worse than you. I'm not any worse than this guy, but I'm also not any better. And the more that I can sit in that, the more open-minded I get, the more I can understand, the more I can learn, and the better I become.
Yeah.
Because if I approach any situation with, this person doesn't know, like before I've talked to them or even while I'm talking to them, I'm never going to be able to make an accurate decision about that situation.
Yeah,
because
you've
I'm
already closed off the
in.
communication. You've already destroyed any potential that you had there by you projecting and you letting past experiences dictate present tense decisions.
Right.
Man, it's fucking wild, man.
It is fucking wild.
What a ride. But congratulations on your sobriety. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your hustle, man. You're one of those artists that really are open to a lot of things, and I think that you just need to find like the right team to just like all double down on. Like you only need like 2 or 3 guys who are just solid, and y'all just move forward like boulders, conquering and like
Agree.
dividing other ones. It's not like stealing the spotlight, but going in there, becoming the big dogs, never taking from anybody and never always giving and never asking, because at that point you give so much and you bring so much value to everybody that people just want to give you shows. They want to give you business. They want to give you streams and support. Like, I really hope to see us having a conversation in like 5 years and you've been like, yeah, I just got back from Europe. My bus was fucking like, it was a little bit smaller than the last one I had, but like your problems are so different.
Yeah. I could see it.
And I could be like, yeah, man, like we're now sitting in my home instead of my apartment. Like, I want to see us advance. I want to see us in places of power, because I feel like I truly believe that good people in places of power create good things for the betterment of all.
Absolutely.
While the negatives and the toxic people who also climb rankings so fast do their best to close doors for others, when we should be opening more doors for more people. If you like Fortnite and you want to make Fortnite music or something just to go viral on TikTok and that makes you happy, then go for it 100%.
Gary Vee talks about we live in the age of being able to sell Smurf t-shirts and make a full-time living off of it.
Straight up, dude.
If you want to sell Smurf t-shirts, it's out there.
And Tony Robbins always says it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. It's really like...
Boom, I like that one.
Yeah, buddy. That's years of being in the personal development game, man. And like with experience, my only thing is like you're super young. You and I have an age gap between us. The only advice I could ever give somebody at your age is like, keep doing what you're doing, but just do your best not to get jaded by the world. And that's an advice I would give to my younger self, because the experiences that I've had, I would never trade them because they've made me who I am right now. And without them, I don't know where I would be. It's a realm of possibilities. There's an infinite universes where that left turn instead of that right turn changed the whole game up for the rest of my existence. You never know. But because I've gone through my experiences, because I've been burned by people, because I've had money stolen from me, because I've had partners take stuff from me, because I've had people like hook up with people that I was seeing behind my back, it's just I struggle with this currently, and this is things that I work on now. It's like I try not to be jaded and resentful and bitter and pessimistic or negative towards people, because I've been burned by people that have made me look at things that I loved with like the sense of contempt. We're like, oh, this is the place that scammed me. So next time when I did see something or came across somebody that was doing it legitimately, I was already associating them with the scammers.
Yeah, I could see that. Because I felt that at certain times, like a little bit, like especially... There's been times where grief has jaded me.
For sure.
So, like, when, like, my best friend in the whole world, Ali Stevens, passed away, rest in peace, I was so jaded about giving anyone any kind of love. Because I'm like, well, you're just going to die. Like, I had this just, like,
it's a valid thought, man.
Yeah, it's valid.
We're going to die.
But I just had this, like, gnarly mindset. And, like, I still, it still comes across me. I see how that could happen, and I definitely feel like just by talking it through with other people, because there's times where, like I've been scammed, or another example is like I see it happen with like music marketing a lot. Like somebody online scams you for $1,000 because they're like, "Oh, we can make you a star," and then you're like, "I'm never gonna market my music again," and then you
close
never go
yourself
anywhere.
off. Yeah.
So I feel it, and I feel like it's really easy to fall into that. And my goal is like what you said, just stay like positive and stay looking for opportunities and stay open minded. But it's
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, don't have sympathy for anybody. Have empathy. Like really hone in on the empathy, hone in on the gratitude, hone in on like the love. Give as much as you can, over promise, over deliver, always give, 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 and never ask for anything in return.
Right.
You trade expectations for appreciation. So like if you go into the show and you give it your 110% and you're just thankful for being there, if by chance one person is like, "You were amazing tonight," be like, "Hell yeah, that's the sprinkle on the sundae." Like,
Facts.
yeah, the experience of doing so was the sundae. Like anything that comes out of it, if you get paid for it, like there's like in comedy right now, I'm very grateful and very blessed to be paid for some shows. Like I've been asked to do shows, do set, and then I get paid for it. Sometimes I'm just like, dude, keep the fucking money. Like it's not about the fucking money. Like, and that's the part of my personal development journey. They were like, "Oh, you shouldn't be able to reject money. You should take it no matter what." But like, it's $20 or it's drink tickets. Like, hey, I don't drink. Go give those drink tickets to one of the guests. Do some whatever. Like with it, save the $20, put it in somebody else's jar. Like I'm doing this for the love of the game.
Right.
And it's hard because some people that want to do things full time have to grind and struggle, and can't support themselves financially, but they're just in it. And my heart goes out to them. I want them to succeed because they're so funny. They're so talented. They grind so hard. It's just, it's so easy to fall into like the entrapment of just being bitter when you should just give love and just like, just give, and give as much as you can. Expect nothing in return, because anything that you do get back, it's the shit. It's awesome. It's amazing.
It's karma coming right back
100%,
around.
100%. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing you put out new music. I'm looking forward to you doing more drops. I'm waiting for you to go from like dropping a song or two every month to dropping like a song every week to a song every day. I want you to chart. I want you to trend. I want you to fucking be out there. Get your message out there, because I feel like if you're then that's the dream. It's going to be a reality soon. It's a goal now, but soon it'll be a real reality. And when it does, and I hope it does, because I truly believe if you are in a position where you can influence and you can bring something to the table, so many people are going to benefit from it, and it's going to bring more people together. Like I believe in you, dog.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
I believe in me too, like,
as you should.
That's the biggest, that's also been like a huge turning point, is just being able to look like myself in the mirror and be like, no bullshit, no insecurities, like throw the ego and the self-centeredness out of the door. Like, do I think that I can do this? And the answer, the last year and a half or 2 years, maybe not the first year I was doing it, is I don't think I can do this. I fucking know I can.
Yeah.
I know I can. Like, I do not have a backup plan. I don't have a plan B. Like, this is what I got. I got music. I got a pen and a piece of paper. I got a couple people I work with and songs that I put out, and I know I'm walking down the right path. It's just work and putting out positivity. Putting out good music for good people continuously will not fail me.
And be willing to like educate the next person, because you have such a unique story and such a unique experience that like when it comes to content creation, yeah, your whole thing is music, but you can also just share your journey, your grind. This is how I write. This is how I journal. This is what I've been through. This is how to not fall into those traps. This is like how to, avoid the mistakes I made, and that's something I wish I could pass on to anybody, is like, hey, learn from my mistakes. Just know that when you do this in this sequence, these are the results. And if you do it in this way, you get these results, and these are the ones that you want to have. This is how you can do it better. Don't lose the money. Don't lose the love interest. Don't get your heart broken. yeah, that builds character, and yeah, that teaches you things that you'll never experience. But like, if you could avoid it, man, like
Good
definitely,
thing.
it's a very good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hope to like, by the time I'm, maybe like 35 or so, I like really, or probably before then, but I hope to be able to write some books just on my experience.
Write a book next year. Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Yeah, what's stopping you?
'Cause I want to spend all my time creating music.
But like, you're also spending time working and having fun and eating delicious food and traveling around.
True.
What's stopping you from
Just writing a couple pages.
a couple pages a day? You're already journaling. By the end of
True.
the year, you'd have a book.
True.
And then what's stopping you from paying a person on Fiverr $50 to edit it?
Facts.
So again,
Stop being a bitch, Liam.
it's straight up.
I like that.
Straight up. Like
I'm down.
the only limits are the limits you set.
Facts.
And like your story, if you don't even want to write, you can just record your audio and have that transcribed and then just tell stories to say where your life has been. Be raw as fuck. Be authentic. And then send it to like an editor who will put it in book format. Like,
That's what I would like to do, but maybe I'll look on Fiverr right
you
now.
don't even like reading. Make an Audible. Like,
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
right? Like, it's you share your journey. If that's something that you really want to do, be fast about it. Put it out. And, it's not for you to decide whether it's good or not. It's for you to just create, build upon it, make a rendition.
Book coming 2023.
Yeah, 2022, baby.
Let's go.
That's 2022.
1 month book.
Yeah, baby. Let's get it done. What's stopping you from putting out like just a collection of your stories and the lessons you got from them? Your experiences are so unique. I've never met somebody like, I like drugs, but I never took like 15 hits of acid at once. You have. So it's like, which I'm not recommending or condoning. Just there are people who've had these experiences who can tell the story, who've lived to tell the story.
I feel it. No, honestly, it's a really, really good idea. Even if it was like a 10-story small book. Like, here's 10 stories about like crazy life experiences that like I've walked away from it with. From like I've learned something from it, or I've gained some kind of experience, even if it wasn't like revolutionary. It's just something that happened that's interesting.
Who's to judge who believes it's revolutionary?
True.
So even you calling it like revolution, you're already downplaying it. It's your story. Just from what we've had in this conversation, you said, if any advice that you'd have to give is to not be jaded after grieving, after grief. Like, that's profound as fuck. Like, somebody who's never experienced the loss of a loved one doesn't know that. So if you tell somebody like, hey, be prepared for this in a way that it doesn't prevent you from loving in the future, because it does hurt to lose somebody, especially if it's somebody you're incredibly close to.
Yeah, it does.
So to then tell to people out there like, hey, don't lose your heart. Like, how many people are going to get to listen to this and that line by itself changes their perspective?
True.
So who are you to judge whether it's revolutionary or not?
I'm not.
Exactly. Just be.
Yeah.
Do your best. Always put out your best. Always give it 100. But put it out there.
I'm hella down. Like, I already have like a couple things that I can think about. And honestly, it's something that I've thought about before and then just pushed it out. And honestly, I think I should just do it right now.
100%.
I can always write another one.
Yeah. Make a written edition. Edit it. Add more stories. Add the 10-year anniversary pack with 25 additional stories, and like the collector's edition. You'll have a book tour, and then it's part like you perform too. Like, you open up your own book tour. Right? Like, it'd be super many. And you'd have people that follow you because of your music. You'd have people follow you because of your writing. You'd have people that follow you because of like your interviews. Build a cult. Builds the cult of Pomi. And like
the Pomi cult.
Pomi cult. Just put it out there. What's stopping you, buddy? Like, the more people that get to know your story and the more people that get to see who you are, and if you're able to then live freely and financially off of it, then that's your dream come true. You're then helping others in turn to then do their dream and inspire them to go just as hard as you did, if not harder.
I'm writing a book.
Hell yeah, dude.
You're seeing it come out soon.
Let's do this. Work on it after
done.
this podcast.
After this conversation,
right
it's
now.
done.
Hell yeah.
It's done. No, I'm so happy that we just had this conversation because, like Like I said, like I'm at least with music, but I think it's going to transfer to so many different things, is I'm coming at it a whole different way. I'm just writing, creating, my producer, shout out Dominic. Dominic is doing all my production. I tell that kid I need the song done, and it's done, turned around, one mix, master, done. And then I'm also working with Overtake Management, who does, you probably know them. Mike Kaufman.
Oh, yeah, I know Mike.
Yeah, Mike does all my album art.
Cool.
In a minute.
Cool.
In an hour. I'm like, hey, I need this album art turned around like that. So I'm just putting out stuff. I want to put out more content, more vlogs, more songs, and a motherfucking book.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm hoping I'm holding you to that standard. Like, I'm holding you accountable for that. I want to see a book in 2022. Like, I want to, like, by summer, I want you to have, like, a book ready and an outline and, like, something that's ready to go to something. And fucking have it published, dude. Self-publish. And then how cool is that, dude? You're a Bay Area rapper with your own book out. And then you can be a self-published author. Then you just add a title to your name. Yeah, dude. You don't have to spend, like, 8 years to get a MA or, like, a MB or whatever the hell the title credential is to have it. Just write books, put stuff out there, put your own perspective.
Misspelled shit
100%. And that's why you get an editor. That's why you edit it and you pay a guy or a girl, whoever, or a them, and then you just have, and then pay another one, and then just have it go through several edits.
Yep.
Because some people put out their first book and it has like 237 typos and misspellings and stuff like that. But did it sell? Did it move? Did it make it go to the next level? Hell yeah, it did. Put it out there.
Yep. I'm down.
Just build upon it.
I'm in.
So much fun. This has been a very great episode, man. Thank you for letting me interview you.
Dude, this has been an amazing episode for sure.
Can't wait till the general public gets to get their hands on this.
I know. It's going to be cool.
Let the crowd know where they can find you, how they can support you.
Yeah, so on any social media that's out right now, unless you're listening to this in like 2025, and we have like the social media of Lollipop. Hopefully it's the same name on there. But you can find me at POMI Music. All social media, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, any of that. I'm an absolute clown on TikTok, so come over there. And then on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, any streaming platform. We're on Jay-Z's Tidal. We're on Pandora, iHeartRadio. It's just Pomi. Pomi.
And then my favorite song by you is Lemonade. That's definitely my favorite. And you just dropped a 4-track...
Lemonade is a favorite, but I just dropped a 4-track like EP project, whatever you want to call it. It's called The Winning Team. And it's just all about where I'm at right now and just extreme gratitude for life and like being happy with the place I'm in, but also, like reflecting on a lot of things in the past. So it's killer.
So fun.
I was looking at it while we were in the car and it said 25 people are listening to it right now. I was like, let's go. I'll take that.
Hell yeah. And it's always a build upon previous. I'm sure like when you first dropped your first song, you could hear the mistakes that you would never make now because you've grown as a person. You've learned. And
my first song makes my toes tingle. I hate it.
Yeah. And the best part now is you can go back, recreate it, rewrite it, restructure it, and maybe it's a banger rewritten. You never know, man.
True.
You have unlimited potential and unlimited, not motivators, but like things to inspire you from, including I'm hoping that those like 11-year-old hate rap.
It's coming.
It's coming, baby.
It's coming.
Okay.
11-year-old hate rap and a book coming 2022.
Dude, Pomi.
On my life.
Pomi is about to blow up in 2022. Y'all are getting the exclusive prior to the blow up.
Yeah, this is gonna be like the interview before the blow up.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like the podcast and you see me on the Billboard Top 100 right now, go ahead and DM me with the keyword Nate. We'll send you over his Venmo, and you could Venmo him some donation money.
Dude, let's all make bills and just climb to the top, man.
Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Thank you for being the guest on my podcast. Y'all, thank you for listening to this episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. I'm your host, Nate De La Hoya-Reynoso. Appreciate y'all for listening, and we will see y'all next time.
Let's get it. Yee!
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. If you loved the episode, please consider leaving us a positive rating and review on Apple Music or iTunes. It takes 30 seconds for you, but for us, It helps spread positivity to more people during these chaotic times. It helps build a community, and it makes me smile ear to ear. Speaking of community, we have a Facebook group. You can find us at facebook.com/groups/Carpe Natem. Just answer the 3 questions to get access to some extra motivation and inspiration for your timeline. If you would like to support the podcast, screenshot this episode, share it to your story, and tag me on Instagram at Carpe Natem 114. That's going to be my handle across all platforms, including TikTok, so please give me a follow if you'd like some more positivity in your life. If you haven't already, please rate us and subscribe on Spotify or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. And lastly, you can find all episodes, links to resources, and opportunities for coaching and mentoring from me at carpenatem114.com. I cannot thank you enough for spending part of your day with me. You are all rock stars taking the necessary steps to be your best self, willing to do whatever it takes, and ready to grab life by the butt cheeks. Until next time, this is your host, Nate Hoya-Reynoso, signing off.